Good afternoon, one and all, present online on this platform. I'm Monica from BSc 3 Electronics. Department of Electronics is organizing a guest lecture on electronic devices, evolution and its impact on technology. Now, I warmly welcome our speaker of the day, Dr. C. Shivaraman sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Now, I call upon Vasavi Lakshmi to introduce sir's profile.
A very good afternoon, one and all present here. I, Vasavi Lakshmi of BSH3 Electronics, take this opportunity to welcome our speaker, Mr. Dr. C. Shivaraman Sir, who is an additional coordinator of IQAC in NAC process and a head department of science and coordinator of UGC sponsored Principals Interactive Meet at Academic Staff College, Osmania University, Hyderabad. Sir has done his PhD from Physics Department, Osmania University, and also Sir has completed his MSc with Electronic Specialization from OU and secured first rank, and he's a gold medalist. Shivaraman Sir is the author of many books with leading publishers and Telugu Academy, and also a subject expert in Andhra Pradesh Open University. Sir has published 8 research papers in national and international journals and guided 5 PhD scholars and 17 MPhil scholars. Mr. Shivaraman sir has 34 years of teaching experience in electronics to UG, BSc, MPE and UG, BSc, MACS courses. Sir is a member of Syllabus Framing Committee in Electronics subject for 2 terms constituted by Telangana State Council for Higher Education, Hyderabad. He is also a member in Board of Studies in Electronics in OU and other prominent autonomous colleges. Sir is an academic advisor in reputed autonomous colleges, and also Sir is a paper setter in OU and autonomous colleges. Sir has conducted many workshops and conferences, and now he's here to enlighten us with his knowledge. I heartily welcome you, sir, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vasavi. I request all the participants to mute themselves so that disturbance will be avoided, and I expect all the anites to utilize the opportunity and focus on Sir's talk and get yourself enlightened with our deep subject knowledge. Now, I hand over the session to Shivaraman sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to the presentation, I am indeed privileged to extend my thanks to Mrs. Bhagyashri Madam, Electronics Faculty of St. Anne's College for Women, Mallapur, for giving me this opportunity to present this lecture in the online GMeet platform in the topic Electronic Devices, Evolution and its Impact on Technology. Thank you very much, Madam. I'm so happy.
I should be pleased, sir. It's my pleasure to meet you, and I would feel sorry for the mistakes I have done.
No, absolutely no. Absolutely. We are all in the learning process. And anyhow, even this pandemic is making us to face all challenges and making us stronger and stronger day after day. So we should put in our efforts. That's what I always like. Now, I also extend my thanks to the principal and the other management authorities of the St. Anne's College for Women, Mallapur, and also the other staff members of the college and the enthusiastic and aspiring students of this prestigious institution. And I thank you one and all, and also welcome you for this guest lecture on a very general topic, which definitely should be more absorbing for you, and it should be definitely a learning process at the end of a 1 hour session. I am really happy to be a part of today's event, and I'm always connected with the St. Anne's College for Women and the other branches also, the main branch St. Anne's College for Women and Medipatnam. I have a long association for more than 30 to 35 years. I know most of the faculty is there, and then I have been a regular paper setter, and then evaluator, guest lectures you have given, number of programs you have conducted, and they have. It's something like a happy homecoming for me as far as the St. Anne's College for Women chain of institutions. So really happy in the today's event. Thank you. So we'll go ahead with the lecture. And before that, I thank the student Vasavi for speaking some good words about me. And just a brief introduction that will make you to easily have some continuity with the presentation. So after serving, I am basically an MSc Electronics. I did my MSc Electronics from Osmania University, and I was the topper there. And then continued my PhD in Osmania in physics. Then took my teaching career in Pragati Mahavidyalaya, Hanuman Tekadi. All of you know this Idli Dosa Bandi, very famous in the Hanuman Tekadi area. So that is where the prestigious institution is there. And in the year 1981, I joined there. About 35 years I worked there. From a faculty or a lecturer, I rose to the HOD. Then I became the principal. And then I superannuated in the year 2016. After that, I got a lot of offers from different engineering colleges and everything. But I didn't join anywhere because I was always fond of doing something on my own, something which I like. I should give back to the society, to the teaching and the student community from the rich experience and the association of people with whom I was attached for about roughly 4 decades. So we took up the activities associating with some NGOs and trusts and societies for about 2 years with a team of people. Then recently, maybe about 6 months, we would say, we started a society, educational society, which under the name Brihat Engineering, Science and Technological Society. We call it as Best Society. It's about 6 to 7 months old. We are a team of people, like-minded people from the science, engineering, and technology background, wanted to serve the student community under this domains. And we are a team of academicians, entrepreneurs, and people from industry, highly accomplished and eminent persons are part of this society. And we also have technical professionals joining us to assist us in helping the student community right from the school level of 8th, 9th class to 10th, and then intermediate, then the degree and the PG, and the research level students from various problems that they come across, for lack of support and guidance, for lack of resource persons helping them, because we strongly felt that every student, every talented and enthusiastic student faces some problems because he enters into an institution and there may be some limitations. There may not be adequate help that much is required for him. Similarly, he may not get the sufficient help from the parents because they may not be from an educational background or from different type of background. They may be a businessman or different type, or for students, from friends or relations, from whoever he wants to help. If he is unable to help, we should help them. So that is our motto. At the end of my presentation, I will be presenting some slides with respect to our society and what we are doing and what we intend doing. And students, whoever is interested, and the faculty, whoever is interested, can always approach us at the email ID that I will be furnishing there. And even in the poster, it is mentioned. And you can always approach us through the emails. And then we will be very happy to rather listen to your queries and then try to help and sort out the matter. And whatever help we can, we'll do to the teaching community as well as the students of your college. We'll be really happy. Now we can start the presentation now, madam.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Now, today's topic for presentation, as you all know, is electronic devices, evolution and its impact on technology. And why this topic is being chosen is because as students of BSc, the first and second and third year, you are supposed to have a rough idea that what are these electronic devices which you learn in the first year, second year, and third year, and then you want to pursue your career in electronics. You ought to know from where it all started and where it is heading to, how much impactful it is in today's technology and in today's scenario, in your day-to-day life. All these aspects, as an electronic student, it's always important for all of you to know. So at the very basic level, we'll be touching all these points in our presentation today. We'll be touching on these things: the origin of electronics and what is its significance, and then how the electronics has evolved right from the vacuum tube era in the previous century, you can call it, to the nano electronics. Now we are in the 20th and the 21st century. How the transition has taken place from the vacuum tube era to the nano electronics and the microelectronics and the optoelectronics and that molecular electronics. So many branches of electronics all of you would have been hearing whenever you get an opportunity to go through some things, right? Some information from somewhere or the other. Then electronic components. We should have a rough idea before you go into the electronic devices. We should have a minimum basic knowledge about what are these components. Because as students of the first years, second years, and third years, we should have a firm knowledge of the basics. So what are the components? So if you think of any circuit, so if a circuit is there, electronic circuit or electrical circuit, all of you know that if anyone is asking you a basic definition, so what you generally give, it's nothing but comprising some energy sources, some components, and some devices. When interconnected, it becomes an electronic circuit or electrical circuit, which has some input, which gives some output. So you take some input and give some output, and that is what it is intended for. That circuit is supposed to give something at the output for which we have connected various components and devices. Then applications. What are the various applications from these devices that come out? Then what are the various trends that are there in the technology? How the upgradation is taking place? Where it is heading to? Making life more absorbing and meaningful is what we'll be touching at the end of our presentation. Electronics, all of us know that it all originally started with emission of electrons. You know the Thomson's experiment, J.J. Thomson's, and then Millikan's oil drop methods. So many things you learn in your +2 level or at even the 10th class level. That emission of electrons, it all started. And from there, the various studies have been taking place. How the electrons get emitted and how they behave and what is its effect on devices. This is how the study of electronics, or the branch of applied science and engineering, which is electronics, can be thought about. In the current century, you cannot dream of, or you cannot think about any life without electronics. You wake up in the morning, and by the time you sleep, you are definitely experiencing electronics and the devices and the applications in one form or the other. Maybe domestic, or maybe home appliances, maybe computers, maybe transport, mobile phones. All of us have become addicted to that, particularly in the pandemic days, with all online teaching, exams, and online entertainment and everything. Healthcare, agriculture, automobiles, communications. Name any field, name any domain, anything that is a part of our day-to-day life scenario, electronics creeps in one way or the other. Security systems, electronic projects, robotics, artificial intelligence, consumer energy, defense electronics plays a big role. And there is no end to this list, because I cannot say that it is, I cannot put a full stop, because it goes on. There are so many things are there, and time limitation, therefore we end up at some point. How the evolution has taken place from where it started. Initially, it was vacuum tubes. In fact, when I started my teaching career, we were teaching the students in 1980s and everything. Some portion of our syllabus was relating to vacuum tubes. We had to get some books for that, and then we had to go through that. It was a tough time at that period, we can say. It was a part of the syllabus. Maybe a 10 to 15% of the syllabus was towards vacuum tubes. We all started our teaching career from there. But today, no one talks about vacuum tubes. It's everything is microelectronics or nanoelectronics. Or you people are all associated with that. But it all started from vacuum tubes. Then in the next revolution took place with solid-state electronic conducting devices were invented. It was a revolution, we could say. Then another revolution was when the microelectronics was invented, when the integrated circuits and the integrated chips made its appearance, which made life so simple. And that's how we are going through so many gadgets with less space, less power, less cost. All these things are all possible because of the advent of microelectronics. And it did not stop just with ICs and everything. Scales of integration. It went on, multiplied from one stage to the other. That we'll be going through in the presentation, that what are all the scales of integration for a smaller scale to how it has gone to a larger scale. Then molecular electronics, dealing with molecules. Today, the electronics has invaded into chemistry, into botany, into biology, name anything. It has just made its impact on different branches of science. Similarly, nanoelectronics, molecular electronics. So these are all the various evolutions that have taken place. Passive components. All of you know that without passive components, we cannot think of any electrical circuit or electronic circuit. So you need resistors, you need capacitors, you need inductors, and also you need transformers. You know, I don't want to go into details, basic ideas. You know, resistor is meant for resisting the current or limiting the current in a circuit. So to safeguard the devices so that excess heat doesn't flow through the circuit to the active devices, so that it dissipates the heat. Resistor is nothing but a dissipating element in any circuit. Capacitor stores electrostatic charge. For storing electric charge and for blocking and bypassing either DC or an AC signal, we use capacitors. Inductors are used for storing electromagnetic energies. And transformers make use of inductors as per the mutual inductance principle. And transformers also are very important from the passive component point of view. Transformers are nothing but which transfers energy from a primary circuit to a secondary circuit, because often we come across circuits which should be activated with a higher voltage or a lower voltage. But what is available to us is the AC voltage is 220 volts or 230 volts. So you may have to give more than that, you may have to give less than that. And that is where we need the transformers. Then active devices are there. See, passive components do their passive role, whereas active devices give the actual output. The output is based on the property and the principle behind the active device. That's why they are called active devices, which could start from vacuum devices. It could be diodes, it could be transistors, or junction field effect transistors, or metal oxide field effect transistors, silicon control rectifiers, unijunction transistors, photoelectric devices, micro devices. So it is the vacuum devices, vacuum tubes era, then your semiconducting era, then you go on to the microelectronics and everything. It is again thermionic emission as well as it is photoelectric emission. So all the things are involved in that. Vacuum tubes again are classified into various categories. It all started with vacuum diode, then it became triode, then tetrode, pentode, CRT, which is nothing but cathode ray tube, and cathode ray oscilloscope. So cathode ray oscilloscope has a main part which is called the cathode ray tube. Cathode ray tube forms the main functional part of cathode ray oscilloscopes. And what are the applications? Applications of these things, these all which are all called vacuum tubes. Vacuum diode is one of the vacuum tubes first device, which has 2 electrodes. Any diode means anything which has 2 electrodes, anode and cathode. The basic idea for vacuum diode usage is for rectification. All of you know what is rectification. Any alternating signal can be converted into a unidirectional. You don't call it as an AC to DC. Any rectifier can only convert a bidirectional signal to a unidirectional signal. That is what is the meaning of rectification. Then you have a triode. So to a vacuum diode, they added one more electrode called the grid, and then that became a triode. So the basic idea is to have an isolation between input to output. So then you need 3 electrodes. There should be an input, there should be an output, there should be a controlling of the input and output. And that is what is the basic idea of a triode. And the benefit we get out of it is, apart from rectification, which is done by the vacuum diode, that was the limitation of that. Now we can use a triode, just like your transistor, as an amplifier. Then they invented tetrode, which has 4 electrodes. They added one more electrode by name screen grid. So then the pentode, 5 electrodes, you would have one more extra this thing. Pentode, penta means it is 5, you know, suppressor grid. So the idea of using all these tetrodes and pentodes is they can be used as an amplifier, also they can be used as an oscillator. You know the basic difference between an amplifier and oscillator. Amplifier amplifies any weak signal to a strong signal. It could be a voltage amplification, it could be a current, or it could be a power amplification. You have some voltage, current, or power, but its signal is weak. But your circuit needs a large magnitude signal. So you have to amplify it. That is what is an amplifier. Oscillator is the one which doesn't take any input, but gives on its own any desired waveform. It could be a sine wave or a square wave or a triangular wave of anything. But oscillator, it doesn't do any magic or anything. Without any input, it doesn't give an output. An amplifier, under certain conditions fulfilled, becomes an oscillator. So that is what you know as the Barkhausen criteria, where you fulfill in an amplifier to convert it as an oscillator, so that you are done with the input. You don't need an input. You get an output even in the absence of an input. That is what is called an oscillator. Then you have a CRT and a CRO. What for we use this? They are visual display units. That means you are in a circuit. You have produced a sinusoidal, a sine wave, but you cannot see it. I can measure the output or see it, and I have a visual display unit, and that is nothing but a cathode ray oscilloscope. So we get the output a sine wave. How am I to confirm it? I connect it to a CRO. There if I get a sine wave, the circuit is working. If it is at the frequency for which I have designed, then it is said to be okay. So you should not only display it, but also measure certain things that you require. For that purpose, you need a CRO. Then vacuum devices, you started with the first computers, which was using vacuum devices. ENIAC is the first computers. Most of you know that it is the thing which is used vacuum devices, originally constructed, which was occupying a very big room. Then vacuum devices, what are the limitations? It needs some warm-up time. You cannot, if you just put it on, it doesn't immediately start emitting electrons. So it requires some time. Similarly, it is very bulky. It occupies more space. It dissipates more power, and it is very costly. They use directly or indirectly heated, use tungsten, thoriated tungsten and oxide coated. All our previously used bulbs. Nowadays, everyone uses LCDs and LEDs and other things, isn't it? Therefore, previously used incandescent bulbs or lamps, they use these tungsten and thoriated tungsten oxide coated, directly heated and indirectly heated. Then semiconductor inversion took place. That was a revolution. Germanium and silicon was invented, and that gave rise to the semiconductor devices, which replaced the vacuum devices, and vacuum devices became obsolete, we can say. From semiconductor devices, we went to microelectronics. Then we went into the today's generation of microcontrollers and microprocessors and microcomputers, which are used in small electronic gadgets like mobile phones, home appliances, and everything. So we went on increasing the levels of integration, and it went to a level of miniaturization. That is what is the order of the day. CRT was dominant display technology for television and computer monitors till the start of 21st century. Due to the advances in the technology and rapidly falling prices, LCDs and flat panel displays took over by 2010 and almost CRT production. Today, whenever you use TV screens or monitors or anything, CRTs are not used or CROs are not used. Today, only flat panel displays are used. You know that smart screens and all those things, flat panel displays. These are all the things that are increasing the clarity, pixels, and the emitting time and efficiency, reliability, everything is going to be there. CRO and CRTs are used for displaying AC waveforms as well as for its measurement of amplitude, phase, and frequency. So these are some of the things. Vacuum tubes, we see different tubes like pentode, tetrode, triode, diode. All these things are the things that were there, but now industrial applications with high voltage applications, still they are used. They have become obsolete, but they have not been totally replaced. Passive components, the resistors, capacitors, inductors are already touched. One is dissipating heat. It takes energy, whereas capacitors and inductors stores energy. And transformers transfer energy. And therefore, you use it for various purposes. Wherever you want, you have some capacitors, electrolytic capacitors and tantalum capacitors, which are polarized capacitors. You have got positive and negative. You have got some inductors and transformers. The difference between transformer and inductor, how do you have differentiated? If we have leads, terminals coming out at both the ends, primary and secondary, it's a transformer. Only from one end, if it is coming out, it is an inductor. It has a coil. So it obeys the Lenz's law and then works on the principle of electromagnetic induction. Then you have got the carbon film resistors. You have got different type of resistors, metal film resistors, carbon film resistors. You have got potentiometers. Different types of resistors can be prepared. Then you have got the resistors, capacitors, inductors, diodes, transistors to have for you to have an idea that how they look. Then semiconductor revolutions, germanium and silicon materials when they were invented. Then it was a revolution. There are two types of semiconductors, all of you know, intrinsic and extrinsic. But extrinsic is more useful because it has a p-type and an n-type. And p-type and n-type is very useful because you can form a p-n junction. By doing doping, you get the pentavalent impurity and the trivalent impurity atoms. You get a p-type semiconductor and n-type semiconductor. And when you bring them by specific methods, if you join them, your p-n junction can be formed. When a p-n junction is formed, many electronic devices, from devices like diodes, transistors, UJTs, FETs, all these things, basic idea is a p-n junction. Therefore, extrinsic semiconductors are very useful, and their conductivity is also very much more than when compared to intrinsic. But you cannot get an extrinsic semiconductor without an intrinsic. You have to take an intrinsic, then dope it, then get the extrinsic semiconductor. So they don't exist on its own. Then they are all called elementary semiconductors. They work on the principle of thermionic emission. Thermionic emission means temperature dependent. You give some thermal energy, increase the temperature up to room temperature, a minimum, then emission of electrons takes place from valence band to conduction band. They become free electrons. Then it becomes a partial conductor. They are called as semiconductors. Diode, Zener diode, tunnel diode, Schottky diode, varactor diode, photoelectric diodes, and high frequency diodes, which are called microwave diodes. Junction diodes are used for rectifiers, clipping, clamping, switching applications. Comparators, all these things are the basic applications. Zener diode is used for voltage regulation. You can regulate a voltage at any desired value or a desired level. Tunnel diodes have a unique property of negative resistance device, they are called as, and they are very highly doped also. Based on that, they are the negative resistance property. They can be used as high frequency oscillators. Schottky diodes are very unique that they have a metal semiconductor contact. Because of that, they can be used in high frequency or microwave switching applications. Varactor diodes use the principle of reverse bias voltage controlled by the voltage. Reverse bias voltage controlling the capacitance, sorry. So the capacitance get controlled by the voltage. That's why it's called volta cap or varicap diodes. They are also having a lot of applications. Photo devices are photodiodes, LEDs, light emitting diodes, solar cells. They make use of photoelectric emission principle. High frequency diodes are microwave diodes, which are gun diodes and impact diodes, so on and so forth. Some of the images of the diodes, gun diode, you are able to see LEDs and the pin diodes, step recovery diodes, Schottky diodes, Zener diodes. Varactor diode and tunnel diodes are there. Transistors, special semi devices. Transistors are PNP and NPN. Basically, they are used for amplifiers and oscillators and switching applications. Power transistors are different from the normal transistors. Power transistors they have the collector area bigger. The emitter and base occupy a lesser area. Power amplifiers, they are mainly used as transistors are of two types: junction field effect transistors, metal oxide field effect transistors. Again, they are of two types: enhancement and depletion, where you can give the positive gate voltage as well as the negative gate voltage. The FET and the MOSFET enjoys the advantage over transistors that they are very compact and they are very fast also. Other than that, they are more similar to transistor, but they are unipolar. Unijunction transistors are having one PN junction. It's a hybrid between a diode and a transistor. It is a negative resistant device again, therefore it is used as an oscillator, a specific oscillator known as relaxation oscillator, which is mainly used in cathode ray oscilloscope. Silicon control rectifiers or SCRs, they exhibit the principle of controlled rectification. They belong to the thyristor family. They have 4 electrodes, in fact, and silicon control switch, relay switch, and diag, triac, they are all examples of thyristors. So these are some of the pin diagrams of transistors and special semiconductor devices. Some transistors and special semiconductor devices, NPN, PNP, and the emitter-based collector with the arrow pointing towards the emitter or away from the emitter. Special semiconductor devices, UJTs, SCRs, FETs, and all those things. Special semi devices again. And then FET, different types. FET types. Microelectronics use discrete and integrated circuit. Discrete circuits are those which we can identify, whereas integrated circuits which are embedded, which use advanced photolithographic process for that. Integrated circuits are the circuits which is laid on a single substrate of silicon wafer, which is called a chip. Analog and digital circuits differ from one another. Digital circuits have two valued variables, binary, whereas analog is continuously variable. A good example is operational amplifiers for analog and flip-flops and registers and counters for digital circuits. Microelectronics revolution, it has undergone an evolution. SSI, MSI, LSI, VLSI, ULSI, GSI, scales of integration we call it, depending upon the number of components or number of gates that you have in particular per chip. It is whether it is 100 or 1000, 10,000 or millions, like that. So SSIs and MSIs are logic gate, flip-flop, registers, counters, multiplexer, demultiplexer. LSI, MLSI, microprocessors and microcontrollers. ULSI, ultra large scale integration and giant scale integration, embedded system, robotics, artificial intelligence, special purpose registers. SSI circuits to LSI, MLSI, VLSI we can call it. SSI gates are there, logic gates are there. MSI, you got the flip-flop, registers and counters, multiplexer, demultiplexer, which form basic blocks of digital electronics. Whereas semiconductor memories like ROM, RAM, PROM, EPROM are there. LSI, VLSI are microprocessors and microcontrollers. The basic difference between microprocessor and microcontroller, if it is a processor on a single chip, it is a processor, microprocessor, or if it is a CPU plus memory plus IO on a single chip, it's a microcontroller. Intel, Zilog, and other manufacturers manufacture these processor microcontrollers. Some of the images of integrated chips, different pins, 8 pins, 16 pins, 14 pins, 12 pins, 256 pins, 512 pins, like that it is there. Then microprocessor are of 5 types: CISC, RISC, ASIC, superscalar, DSP, digital signal processors. First generations to 5th generation, the microprocessors or the computers are there based on the microprocessors. 1970s, now we are 21st century. Present day, it is more than 10 million transistors. It all started with hundreds of transistors. It all started with Intel 8080, whereas now it is Pentium 4 Plus. It was originally 8-bit and 2 megahertz, very less frequency, and only 8 bits of data they can handle. Now it is very high frequency, more number of pins, high frequency, high speed, and more or less power and all those things. Intel, Motorola, DEC, Texas, Zilog, these are the manufacturers of microcontrollers. Some images of microprocessors, Intel, Pentium processors. Microcontrollers, Intel again is the leading manufacturer of microcontrollers. Intel 8051, 8052 are very popular under UG and PG. You learn these things with for many projects and everything. For in microcontrollers and embedded systems, we make use of these microcontrollers. AVR, Atmega microcontrollers, PIC microcontrollers. Embedded memory and external memory are two types of microcontrollers. Common applications in mobile phones, automobiles, washing machines, cameras, security alarms, traffic controls, etc. Embedded systems is a microprocessor-based microcomputer hardware system with a signal designed to do a dedicated function and independent of this. Different types of microcontrollers we're able to see. Atmel, AVR, Atmega, Arduino, ARM, 8051, PIC. Embedded system, common applications, consumer, automotive, medical applications, telecommunication, home appliances, commercial, military, defense. They are also of different types, functional requirement based or microcontroller performance based. Again, in that we have got real-time, standalone, network, mobile. You've got small scale, medium scale, and sophisticated. Embedded systems, images are there, which is embedded actually. It is emerging trends in technology, optoelectronics, telecommunications, broadband communications, super electronics. These things, I think we have. Nanoelectronics and nanotechnology. The studies are done at very low dimensions of 1 nanometers and 100 nanometers. The main plus points of these nanoelectronics and nanotechnology is they are very faster and efficient. Lot of emerging applications, trend-setting applications are there with spintronics and optoelectronic displays. And wearable, flexible electronics, molecular electronics are there. Some of the images relating to nanoelectronics, you're able to see that chemistry, then mathematics, physics, medicine, pharmacy, biology, biotechnology, you have got in the life sciences, you have got also in the physical sciences, and all these things are there. It has invaded into all the areas. Similarly, in nanotechnology, it goes into the energy storage and then defense, security, metallurgy, and materials, electronics, optical, engineering, communications, biomedical and drug delivery, agriculture and food, cosmetics and paints, biotechnology, textile applications are there. Nanotechnology is also used in the healthcare and the medical applications in the latest emerging applications of medicines also there. Then coming to the best society, the reason or the need or the origin behind forming the society is it's a common observation by all of us that today's generation of enthusiastic and talented students at different levels of their study are facing many problems which deprives them to end up with an unsuccessful career and placements. The primary members felt that this problem can be solved only by a team of reputed, successful and experienced and technical professionals helping those students. This thought and vision led to the formation of Best Society. Group of highly accomplished academicians, entrepreneurs who form the founders with the help of eminent technical professionals who are the professional life members form the team of Best Society, which is Brihat Engineering, Science and Technological Society, to help the student community in the following 4 levels under science, engineering, technology and career counseling and skill development sectors. Junior level, 9th, 10th class and inter first and second years are equivalent, like CBSE 11th and 12th or ICSE, there is ISC 11th and 12th, or Polytechnic diploma, they are all coming under the equivalent. Degree level, BSc, BTech and others, something like BSCA and all these things. Only science, engineering, technology we cover. Similarly, PG levels, MSc, MTech and other things like MCA and other diplomas also are coming into that. Research level, MPhil and PhD is possible. What is the function of the Best Society? How does it help the students? See, the students need to know the basics they should possess the in-depth knowledge about the basics of any subject, what they are learning. Then not only theoretical in-depth knowledge is required, even in practical training, some hands-on experience is needed. Just doing some experiments or some projects is not enough. You should have some real-time applications and real-time practical training is needed. And they should know that what for a particular experiment has been done or a project has been undertaken, what is the extension of that and scope of that. Some learning should come out of it. Similarly, some student learning and development programs can be conducted to provide some awareness, because what the student today lacks is awareness. Some learning is needed for which awareness is needed. Then he can develop. All this is possible only if some resources are put before him or her to assist in the projects and internships, to organize training and placement activities, to conduct workshops, seminars, and skill development programs, to conduct FDP and events for faculty. But how does the students become a part of the best society? They can just approach the professional life members or the primary members who are the founders, like me, of the best society and enroll the student members. For 1 year of study, they have to pay only 100 rupees. Once they become student members, they can participate in n number of online events that are being conducted as of now, because offline events are not being conducted, and utilize all the facilities that are given in the previous slide. Wherever they need, some gap is there, it gets filled up. And not only at their level, even at other levels they can participate. So they become a part of the best society and attend all the programs conducted at different points of time, so that they get empowered, so that they don't just graduate or finish their post-graduation like any other student, just finishing with some grades. They have empowered themselves and they have really got some extra skill set or practical training or training for placement. They have some extra thing that has been derived for them by becoming a part of the society. So this is exactly what I wanted to throw light upon, and I am extremely glad to be a part of this today's event, and I thank Bhagyashree Madam and the other staff and the HOD Madams and the principal of the St. Anne's College, Ballapur, and also for the enlightened students for your patient hearing. Thank you one and all.
Now I call upon Jennifer for vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we come to the end of today's session, on behalf of our college, I, Jennifer, Secretary of Student Council, take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks. At the outset, I thank the President of Brihat Engineering Science and Technological Society, Dr. C. Sivaraman Sir, for enlightening us with his knowledge. Today's session was full of knowledge and gave us deep insights into the topic. I am pretty sure the precious knowledge that you shared with us will definitely help us in our future, sir. I would also like to thank our Principal Sister Emmy and our lecturers for organizing this session. I extend my gratitude to all the students for active participation. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.